Sell tickets online, never in the streets. Easiest way to make money. I go to the ticket shop.
Click the link at the top line of the description.
What's poppin'? Throwback Thursday. We got an unreleased forward interview and I'm about to play a Royce the 5'9". Hit the thumbs up and check out our sponsor at the top line of the description. Let's jump right into the Royce the 5'9".
Give me ownership of the masters, and then I help blow. I'm gonna help blow you up, and you know what I mean. Like I just, I'm not ready for that. If there's a scenario where it can be all business, then that's different.
Right.
If it's just all business, but when you're talking about somebody that I fuck with and trying to build a relationship with, I'm gonna get the same fulfillment out of just watching them blow up.
How can we remedy that situation when it comes to the labels and the artists? Because we see a lot of independent artists doing their things. At the same token, you see a lot of artists still running to these labels to kind of run towards that dream that they think that would be fulfilled if they were to sign that contract. But you see so much dirty shit going on. And like you just said, you want to get into the executive role, but at what cost? You don't know if you're willing to risk that. How can we remedy that though? Because you were somebody that'd be very important to get into an executive role because you understand the artist and you are about the artist.
Yeah.
But we need that right now. So how can we find that balance and find a way to kind of remedy that situation?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I don't think anybody does because there's just two parallel things happening. It's not unfair when it's just business. It only becomes unfair and non-artist friendly because it's not meant to be artist friendly on the label side. That's not what they're here for. That's not even their role. That's not their obligation. And then on the artist side, if myself decide that I'm going to get somebody into an agreement, that person, especially if I'm building a relationship with that person is going to hold me to a standard because of who I am to them.
Right.
I'm a black man. I'm an artist myself, and I'm embracing somebody that's young who doesn't have all of the information, and they looking at me and saying, yo, you got the information, so I trust you. That's a different trust. You know what I mean? So even if I go sit in the artist seat, in those major label seats, the higher executive seats, and I start doing a bunch of artist friendly shit, if all the other labels aren't doing artist friendly shit, then I'm just gonna get fired. You know what I mean? So what is the remedy? Like I don't think that there is one. I think it's I guess there are different remedies that are unique to each individual. You know, like for me, I feel like my remedy is what I'm exercising right now. My right to just be patient about it. You know what I mean? And not jump into it. Because there's going to eventually be a day in the business where labels are going to be forced to do more artist friendly shit. I mean, it's just, you know, the kids, they just becoming more and more savvy. You know what I mean? They understanding the value of intellectual property prior to going in and talking to these labels. And, you know, in another generation or two, you know, with the blockchain and everything, Web3, man, in order for labels to exist, they're gonna have to do artist-friendly shit. You know what I mean? Maybe sometime down the line, when it gets to that point, maybe, you know, I'll consider taking on some type of a role like that. But it's hard for even somebody like me to accept a job or accept that kind of a job and still be kind of like preaching ownership. You know what I mean? Like, and building your own. You know what I mean? So I remember I was in the clubhouse room with Dame Dash before. And I asked him something similar to what you guys just asked me. I said, yo, don't you think that some of us, you know, guys that are like-minded, like myself and you, should be in some of these high-level executive seats at these labels? He was like, what the fuck for? What the fuck for? Like, I don't want to, I'm building somebody else shit at that point. Look at my own shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like guys like Dame, they're so great because they see things that way. You know what I mean? Like they don't really see a whole bunch of multi-layered, multifaceted visions. Yo, it's almost like tunnel vision, but in a good way. You know what I mean? He sees it the way he sees it, and he is a super focused individual. You know what I mean? So I guess shit, guys who think like him would be in the best position. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Talk about you getting your masters back. I heard you talking about, you know, you finally, you know, getting the wherewithal to get those back. Talk about the process and being able to get them and how to properly utilize them.
Yeah. So It's a natural process. Like back in the day when I signed my first deals back in the day, I believe I signed like a five album deal or something like that, and the label maintained control of the master for like a 7-year period or something like that. I can't really remember what it was, but I just hit a point where I knew all agreements had been met. You know, I was to a point where I could actually go back. I'm sure that it was like whole new staff up at certain labels, you know, especially like Sony and Columbia and shit like that. E1, and you know, we just went in there and got them. You know what I mean? Like sometimes some you could buy, some you can pull up the old agreement. Like it's a few different ways that you can go about doing it. With me, I had to go a few different ways. You know what I mean? Like I had to talk to a few different entities that I was in business with, and I just regained control of them. And when I dropped the Heaven Experience project, it was an interesting release for me because it wasn't a standard release. It's 15 songs. 11 of the 15 songs already were up on streaming platforms.
Okay.
So initially, with Kino and I, what our plan was to take the songs down, and then when we announced the date, you know, we put them back up on the day that it comes out. We never even got a chance to do that. So 11 of the songs were just already on streaming platforms.
Wow.
So four of the songs were songs that I had in the stash that I put on there to give people something new to go look at, something to be excited about, who've been following me for a minute, because I know it's been a minute since I released some music. And that's pretty much it. So when you look at something like that, and to answer your question about how to kind of utilize that, it's basically just if you look at it and whatever you see it existing as, and then, you know, from this date forward, now I control it. So whatever streams you see in addition to what was already there is all profit. You know what I mean? Because it's all profit. And I kind of want the youngins to kind of look at the master kind of like that. Just look at it like a digital asset. You know, it's something that even if it's not streaming a whole lot, and I'm talking about song for song, even if each song isn't streaming like a crazy amount, just look at it like a revenue stream, because all of that shit adds up. You know, and the labels are playing the game on lots of different levels, not just the largest level that you see. You know, it's more to money being generated in streaming than just Drake and Eminem. You know what I'm saying? Like a company like Empire, you know, they have like a huge catalog of just records streaming. You know what I mean? From small to mid-size to, and when they all add up, it turns into a lot of revenue. So it's very, very, very important that young artists understand that it's time to play the catalog game now.
What do you think about this new artist this new virtual artist that they signed on Capitol Records? TikTok, 10 million followers. What's the dude's rap name? FN Mecca, some shit like that.
What do I think about him?
Yeah, did you hear about the new virtual artist, and what do you think about that whole situation or the whole idea of it happening?
I think the idea for me is just an indicator. It's just an indicator of things to come. You know, I think it may be a little early to go that all in right now with that character this early, especially an all AI character. You know, but we're gonna eventually get to a day where, you know, shit like that is gonna exist. I mean, there's been AI characters on Instagram for years with millions of followers. You know what I'm saying? So I think when Web3 is fully up and running and the whole metaverse thing is now a thing, and people are shopping in the metaverse and people are in possession of avatars that they can use across all platforms. I think once we get to that point, then yeah, that's the logical next step.
Right, definitely. Now I heard you. I don't know if it was recently, but you got in the J. Cole came down to your studio. Could you talk about that a little bit, and any music coming out as a result of that?
Cole been to my studio a few times. He's just a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine. sometimes when he comes into town, he calls me. He doesn't get to Detroit that much, obviously, but yeah, we talk pretty frequently. I haven't spoke to him in a minute, but we talk pretty frequently. And he's been here a few times. We worked on some music. He's been here a few times. We just talked. You know what I mean? Like he's just one of my partners. That's all.
Dope. Now, you were one of the first brothers to come out, in my opinion, when this whole mental health and brothers getting mental health, when that started really gaining popularity. I remember vividly from the Book of Ryan, you kind of just giving you and talking about your mental health and bearing your truth. And one of your lines that really caught on to me was, I'm writing all these bars of madness, remembering, I forgot what it went. You said, getting to all my childhood scars and sadness. I think it was on one of your interludes. And it kind of really stuck with me because you see what hip hop's going through now, even with Quando Rondo. We've seen his young cousin get shot, and his emotions is pouring out right there in front of everybody to see, and then they're making TikTok challenges about it. Like, this shit is kind of weird on how hip hop and then the youth is absorbing hip hop and how it all is kind of acting out in front of us like a video game. And it all kind of alludes to what we're going through as men, as young black men, as older black men, all around. How do you feel about the current state of hip hop as it pertains to the youth? All the violence we see in the RICO charge. How do you feel about it as a whole with our youngsters and what they're going through?
Well, I hate the fact that it's so violent, but it's always been violent.
Yeah.
It's always been violent. And now everything is just kind of playing out in front of our eyes. But young black men and especially grown black men too, we're not allowed to be emotional. We're not allowed to show emotion. We're not allowed to cry. We're not allowed to feel anything. All of us have to be dominant alpha males, and everything that's considered cool from the environments that we come from is some souped up masculine shit, souped up toxic masculine shit. You know what I'm saying? Some tough guy shit. Tough guy shit is like cool. You can't be vulnerable. You can't show emotion. And when you taught that growing up, especially if you don't have like a father or somebody that you could speak to about some of the things that you feel, and you don't learn how to unpack your feelings, like you don't learn how to articulate how you feel about things, that turns into you and your brain automatically as like a reflex, masking and suppressing feelings. And that happened to me at such an early age. I remember being at my grandma's funeral and not being able to cry. I wanted to cry. I was trying to cry and couldn't find it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, by the time I got to therapy, when I decided to get sober, man, I talked to my therapist. I was talking to that man for probably an hour before I was in tears.
Okay. Wow.
And he was actually, all he did was ask me a few questions about my dad. He asked me a couple questions. I just started kind of talking about our relationship. Next thing you know, I'm in tears. And me and my dad always been good. My dad is one of my idols. You know what I'm saying? But my dad is also the cause of a lot of my trauma. You know what I mean? So when you don't address it and you don't step to it, the shit is gonna come out regardless. It's gonna come out.
Right.
And it wasn't until therapy that I learned the importance of being able to express yourself like that and being able to get that shit off you. That shit felt like a weight off my shoulders. You know what I mean? So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I still don't have the courage to just be around just crying about everything. You know what I mean? Because I associate that shit with courage now, man. I had to text Hitmaker the other day after I saw his interview on Math Office Show. And I just was like, look, man, you know, it's funny, like the street guy who never has taken any L's, who looks like he's virtually bulletproof, is pretty much what we subscribe to and what we are intrigued at the idea of. We are intrigued at the idea of such a thing. You know what I mean? Like, to us, that's like the most magnificent thing that we can see on our TV and on our computer screens, that we kind of like colloquialize. You know what I'm saying? Like, we look at that shit like it's like, because we know that's not none of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish I could look myself in the mirror and say I never took any L's. You know what I'm saying? Like, I took plenty of L's. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what we associate with strength. So I told him to have the strength to be that vulnerable, and then also have dialogue of things that you've done that are so redeeming from things that are deemed as so demeaning. You a man today. You strong today. You know what I mean? Just like Marshall told me when I called him and told him that I'm ready to stop drinking and I can't do it by myself. He said, Royce, that's the realest thing you ever told me. And you probably think that you at your weakest right now because you are powerless over something. But if you strong enough finally to admit that you're powerless over something, now you strong. You know what I mean? So it's like we don't express vulnerability because we're afraid to, not because we're not vulnerable. Everybody is vulnerable. Every human being, especially black men. You know what I mean? And I think that vulnerability, it resonates very well with us, but we just don't make that the topic of discussion. We love to see people evolve. You know, it seems like people want you to stay the same and they enjoy watching you kill yourself. But it's nothing more enjoyable than watching you redeem that shit, man. Could you imagine if Jay-Z was still talking about being a drug dealer at 50 years old? It wouldn't even translate the same.
Right.
He needed to evolve. And that's why we love the nigga so much. We don't even love him as a drug dealer no more. We love the fact that he came out of that shit. So it's a way. But then, you know, on the flip side to that, there are some rappers who glorify. But not every rapper talking about that shit is glorifying it.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot going on. To answer your question, there's a lot going on in the culture at the same time, and a lot of it just needs to be kind of disentangled. And I think a lot of it are actually separate conversations that need to be had, and some of them don't need to be had anywhere near the same time because it's too easy to conflate.
Right. Real talk. Kind of piggybacking off that a little bit. I heard you talk about in the interview that you just got tired of being drunk all the time. You 9 years sober now. Do you think, you know, the alcoholism was a result of some of those childhood traumas that you say you went through with your father?
Absolutely. But it's not always easy for me to talk about my alcoholism correlating to a lot of the trauma that I experienced because people who haven't been to therapy and who may not necessarily understand it, I don't know if it's the way that I articulate it or if I'm not that good at articulating it yet, but I never wanted to come off as a justification.
Gotcha.
You know, because one of the main components of sobriety and taking the steps and getting better and looking to evolve at all times is accountability. You know, like, so I'm always trying to find out how can I hold myself accountable? What role did I play in anything that's wrong? I don't care what it is. Anything that happens, I know it didn't just happen. You know what I mean? Like everybody played their role. But now the flip side to that is understanding not to put everything on myself. You know, because up until that point, I put everything on myself. I put the way that I did in school, I put that on myself. You know what I mean? Like what happened with my brother when my brother went to jail at an early age, I put that on my brother. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have the wherewithal to be able to say, okay, maybe that was a trauma response from the trauma we experienced with my dad and my brother's need. He felt the need to protect me at all times. So he had an emotional reaction to somebody that I had a fight with that I didn't even need help. And he cut the guy with a knife. He ran to his car and cut the guy with a knife and he got arrested at an early age. And once he got into that system, he was in and out of jail all the way into damn near his 40s. So at this point, he's institutionalized. And that shit caused a lot of division between me and him. It drove a wedge between me and his relationship because he went this way, I went that way. So by the time we met back up, it wasn't the same as when we were kids. And that's some disheartening shit. You know what I'm saying? Like life kind of works that way, you know, but when you can look at these scenarios and you can kind of put this here, put that there. Okay, this could have been because of that. this, and then you start learning that everything is for a reason. You know, nothing is just by chance. Shit don't just be happening. Everything correlates to something, and when you can kind of break that down like that and identify with that, you can let things go. You know what I mean? Like you can not have things just weighing on you all the time. You know what I mean? You can let go of some of the guilt that you may have been harboring. You ever seen somebody at a funeral blaming themselves for
Yeah.
somebody else's death, and then somebody telling them you can't blame yourself? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it's like if you can unpack things, if you can unpack things and you can identify certain components of a situation, then it makes it a little bit easier for you to be able to accept certain things, because a lot of this shit is just about acceptance. I accepted the fact that my father wasn't perfect. I accepted the fact that he did the best that he could do. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like with what he had, he's a 20-year-old parent with a cocaine addiction. You know, my mother and father were fucking kids, man. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like there's plenty of room for error. There's gonna be mistakes made, and they made them. But the thing about me is looking at that in retrospect is my parents' positives by far outweigh their negatives. To me, that's them doing a great job. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
mm,
How easy was it to find a therapist? Because I know, like, to find it, I don't know if it may be easier or harder to talk to somebody that you don't know. Because that's my cousin. I've known him my entire life, as close as brothers could be. But we don't share shit like as deep as we could to a therapist. You know what I'm saying? So, is it easier to talk to a therapist? How easy was it to find the right therapist? Like, talk about that experience.
um, well, with me, I went to the guy that Marshall put me with.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So my first experience with trying to find a therapist that I kind of like felt like that I needed to talk to a certain kind of therapist. I remember I was doing like a room. I was moderating, or I was doing some type of panel, or I was doing something with a bunch of like mental health people. Um, and there was a therapist named Spirit. Her name is Spirit. She's a black lady, and she got to breaking stuff down, man. And I just fell in love with the way that she thinks and the way that
Mhm,
she speaks,
mhm,
and the way that she was kind of like standing up for young black men, and just like she was able to break things down in layman's terms and without having to use a whole lot of words.
Mhm.
And she was just slick with it, bro. It was like when I heard Jay-Z for the first time. You know what I'm saying? Like when I heard Reasonable Doubt. You know what I mean? Like listening to her talk, that's how I felt. So I reached out to her, and I talked to her a couple times. So I mean, I guess I would equate it to like finding a good barber. You know what I mean? Like it's not really hard. It's not really hard. They're around, and it's just about finding the ones that work best with you.
Word.
Like there's plenty of barbers out there who can do the kind of haircut that you want. Well, maybe all of them might not have the type of personality that you're looking for. You know what I mean? So you may have to go to a few of them to find the right fit. You know, it may be a location that you prefer. You know what I mean? Like it could be anything. But you're gonna go in there and you're gonna start talking. But really, the best shit is gonna happen when you are able to relax and just kind of let your inhibitions go. And that may come with time. It just depends on the person and how well how well they can adjust to just talking to somebody, because ultimately whoever it is going to be somebody you don't know anyway.
Word.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, if that's a problematic thing for you, then that's all the more reason why that's all the more reason why you got, because you don't do that when you're looking for a job. You
Right.
don't say, yo, I don't want to go to this interview because I don't know the person who I'm doing the interview with. Well, yeah, but you want to get some money, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you got to look at your mental health in the same kind of realm. You know what I mean? Like this is for you. This is for you to get better. But it's stigmatized in our community that the first thing we do is think of a bunch of reasons why we shouldn't go.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's paralyzing. You know what I mean? Like the paralysis of analysis. You know, you can sit and analyze that, and years will go by. But until you decide, like, yo, man, this is something that's important, which unfortunately we don't know how important it is in our community, because it's never been a community that has been readily available to us.
Right.
So we usually wait until there's something wrong, or court ordered or something like that. But we all need to talk to somebody. It's not just when you feel like you crazy, or, something happened and you're losing your mind, or it's nothing like that, bro. It's like therapy is something. Therapy is like a workout, bro. It's like going to the gym. That's how it should be viewed in our community. It should be,
Wow.
just go having somebody. Look how all of these audio chat apps and shit have like taken off during the pandemic. It's just audio.
Yeah.
It's just people in there. It's just people in there talking, bro.
Yeah.
That's all it is. These people didn't realize how much they needed to be able to do that until they had that app there. And that's all the therapy is. People are on there just spilling everything, bro. People, the first thing they say is, I don't usually do this, this internet shit. This ain't what I do, but I'm about to go in here and do everything that everybody else be. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to get that shit off you, bro. You got to get it off you.
Definitely, man. I definitely want to salute you, man, because I see that, a lot of people we meet, we'll reach out to certain people and they don't, it's almost like our podcast, our platform is too small. But I see you touching everybody. That's why I was like, I gotta hit him up, man. I'm seeing him doing interviews over here. You gotta come, talk to us. So I just want to definitely salute you for that.
Thank you, man. Not to cut you off, but just to interject on that, I'm glad you said that.
Right.
And yeah, like I'm glad that you noticed that I have been hitting, because I don't know who's small and who's not. Honestly, I don't, bro. Like if I see it, for whatever reason, you guys pop up on my YouTube algorithm and I always see it, and I just like the way that you guys do interviews. But I have noticed the gullies and like a lot of these guys with platforms. I don't want to use the word complain, but they address their concerns with artists skipping over the black platforms and the platforms that are deemed to be maybe a little bit smaller, and going to like the No Jumpers and the Vlads. And I kind of feel that. I think that we're naturally programmed to kind of do that, especially if we hiring like publicists and shit like that. Publicists is just going to put you on the platforms that have the most viewership.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I encourage all of the younger artists to get into thinking of spreading it around in the culture, and looking at what you do within the culture, and when you're doing it, not like everything you're doing is just like you're just trying to blow up, but everything that you're doing, you have to look at it like a contribution to the culture, because it is a contribution. What we're doing right now is valuable, man. When you go sit in these people's chairs and shit like that, you giving them content.
Yeah.
Because there's going to come a point in time where people are going to just start charging for interviews. That's coming.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, me personally, I feel like niggas should come out and hit all of the black platforms. I don't care who they are. And then go hit the No Jumpers. And you know what I mean? I don't suggest that you go hit Vlad just because I don't fuck with Vlad. You know what I mean? But I understand why people do his show. You know what I mean? But I think that it should be spread out. I don't think that anybody should be overlooked. But that's gonna be like a decision that will have to be made by the artist. You know what I mean? So I just hope we can get to that point one day. But I definitely make it a point to make sure that I connect with all my brothers, especially brothers like yourselves, man. You know what I mean? That's doing it the right way.
Brother, listen, you are a minority in that situation, because you speak on it and we see it from afar and we respect it. And the 30-minute conversation that we're currently on, we can feel that and digest that. No, that's authentic. I'm going to ask you, does the people in the culture within hip hop and these various places that go to these various platforms outside of the culture that say they care about the culture, brother, they actually give a damn about the culture, or are they just saying it because it's popular to say right now?
It's probably both. I hate generalizing with anything, but it's probably both. And this would just be my opinion. We all are left to our assumptions because of, the state of things.
Right.
I think there are some youngins who, when they say that, they mean it, but I don't think that they quite fully understand yet how to fully apply that. And when you say the culture, do you mean the culture as it benefits you, or do you just mean the culture?
And that's a great question. And we always,
because me in my 40s, If I say that I love the culture now, it means something different from when I was in my 20s and my 30s. Now, I mean the culture as in how can I help,
Right.
not how can it benefit me.
Right.
You know, but that's also because I'm not trying to be famous anymore.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I'm more comfortable in my skin now. I'm not on a paper chase. I'm not in the same mind frame that I was in that guys like that are probably in. So I understand where they at with it. And that's where mentorship comes back in. That's why it's important for the older guys that have been through what these youngins have been through to kind of pull their coattail to, you know, because they don't realize how valuable they are. They don't realize how important they are. That's why, you know, that's why when they walk into labels, they think that they don't have leverage and all these types of things that they're being told. You got plenty of leverage. When you go do an interview with somebody, you're the valuable one. You're bringing value everywhere that you go. So why not bring value to all your brothers who are matching you with that value, who care about the culture, who, when they do things, it's for the betterment of the culture and not to the detriment of the culture. You're not going to be able to measure that or be able to identify with that until you run into some problems like how we ran into with Vlad. I fucked with Vlad all the way up until he had opportunity to actually show if he cared about the culture. And he couldn't even do something as simple as apologize to the minister for something that he admitted that he was wrong to. Right. There go your opportunity right there. You didn't take the opportunity. That told me everything. You know what I mean? So that's it. That's it. So it's like, yo, y'all not gonna misquote the minister or do some shit like that. And then when it falls back on you, you say, I'm not apologizing. Y'all gonna be proud to apologize because y'all love the culture. You are the culture.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So I mean, that's the type of shit that I kind of look at now. I haven't always looked at it, but I look at it now, and I know the youngins, a lot of them aren't looking at it. So like it take a community, man. It take solidarity. You know what I mean? Like once we start calling niggas out, and you're not doing this and you're not doing that, it just makes it worse for us.
Yeah.
And the funnier part about that, because we interviewed Lord Jamar around that time and Godfrey around that time, and they stood firm on what they said. But we had a lot of other people that came on and said, I ain't going over there. I ain't dealing with Vlad no more. Boom, boom. Then they ended right back. I ain't gonna put no names out there, but They ended up right back over there. And you said the same thing that we said about the whole situation. It's just like they kind of prey on the fact that we don't really stick together on something. You made an example of Nick Cannon, how when he just gave his opinion, how it was backlash. Then you also talked about how we fighting more so with black people than the other people. As far as when we make a stance like that, it's always somebody that jumps up and wants to fight us instead of like the other person ain't got to say nothing at all. Could you kind of expound on that a little more?
I mean, you said it. You know what I mean? Like we triggered by each other, man.
Right.
Like I think if when we really get down to it and we start looking at, I don't know if we really like each other. I think that's what we need to think about. Do you really like your brother? If so, why is it so easy? Why is it so easy for you to kill him? Because you don't have none of that energy for none of these white people.
Right.
If a nigga, and I'm sorry, I don't even mean to use that phrase. If a black person did half the stuff that Vlad's platform did, he'd be dead.
Yeah, that's a fact.
A black people would have lit him up a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
These guys don't have no energy for white people. And I'm not saying it to say that they should have that energy for white people. I don't want niggas to have that energy for anybody. Especially not each other. But why is it just specifically just for each other? That's a problem. That's a problem. And that's why it's hard for me to engage in, diss records and all of this. I just can't, man. I can't do it, bro. I can't do it. I've done it. I'm guilty of it. You know what I mean? Like I fall back into certain patterns and then I got to catch myself, man. I hate the fact that that's a go-to for me. I hate the fact that I can naturally just like put pen to paper and just tear my brother down. I hate that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I hate the fact that a black dude could say something about me and it'll trigger me different from if a white dude made a generalization. I hate that. Because man, I'm telling you, man, like it's almost like we living in a separate world and we viewing it out of our own little microwave doors. And those are the environments that we come from, whether it be the projects, the hood, the east side, the west side, the ghetto, whatever it is. These are created environments, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So you're a product of environments that were created for you to be how you are. And in the way that you are, there's a stat for everything that you do. There's a stat. There's a statistic for everything that you do that's being held against you. Everything. So the whole schooling system that you're a part of, there's a clear pathway from that schooling system to the prison industrial complex. There's a clear pathway, and you're just a part of a process that's already in motion. You know, like how like you can't even teach a young person that it's too much. You know, so when you get of age, or you finally read enough or take in enough information to understand that, you just sound like a nigga preaching.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's hard as a black man, especially in this culture, to evolve in peace, man. It's hard, man. Like that's the biggest battle that I'm having. I'm battling myself every day, evolving. I gotta fight off demons. I'm an alcoholic, man. You know what I mean? Like I got a son with autism, and I think I've never been diagnosed, but I'm almost positive that I'm on the spectrum as well, slightly. Because I was looking back at a couple interviews that I just did. I had a straw during those interviews, and people complaining about the straw. To the people complaining about the straw, let me tell you something about the straw. I think it's either my slight Asperger's or it could be me being an addict. But when I need the straw, I need the straw. Right. So if you don't like the straw, don't look at it. You know what I mean? I can't explain it. If I need the straw, I need the straw. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry if you don't like the straw. I love the straw. I don't have the straw all the time, but when I need the straw, I'm using the straw. I need it sometimes. You know what I mean? And there's a lot that we go through this in our minds that people don't even think about. They don't even consider. I got to watch how I speak, and people call me arrogant, and you know what I mean? Like, he's arrogant. Why am I arrogant? You know what I mean? Like, why? Do you know how self-conscious that I am? The only time that I'm at the height of my confidence is when I'm writing a rap. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm a black man. You know how many things go on in my mind and how many times I have to put on a face that doesn't show fear or vulnerability. You know nothing about me. It's real easy to judge somebody, man. It's real easy to sit around and talk about somebody on the other end of your fucking computer screen. You know what I mean? So I don't think people take into consideration the things that we just have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's tough, man.
Yeah, and it's easy for them because they sitting in dirty drawers with a dirty ass gaming headset on, watching Love and Hip Hop and shit with chips and shit all over their shirt. They don't know. they just as miserable. But I want to talk about, shout out to Kara Dangerous, a friend of the show. I'm sure she's a friend of yours.
Yes, of course. That's sis.
Absolutely. She dropped a post on Instagram that was dope, and we talk about it all the time here. I want to kind of expound on it. She said, remember when everyone knew pro wrestling was fake and they finally admitted it and the fans didn't care and continued to watch it anyway? We're almost there with politics and the media. Now, I want to kind of stray away from the politics unless you want to dive into it. That's a whole shit show in itself, and kind of stick it more towards the media as it pertains to what we do and hip hop and entertainment. And we talk about all the time how fake we assume it is because we're not in it directly. You know what I mean? We're on the outside looking in of it. How fake is this shit for real, bro?
Media in general?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think there's real motives and real agendas, but the actual content more so falls under the motive and agenda category than it does pure content. So whatever they're shooting to make you believe is what they're doing. But I don't think it's just media. I think it's anything that you look on TV and see, period.
Right.
I think all of that is being controlled. You know, it's been a conglomerate for quite some time now. I believe it's like three platforms. What do you have? Like Comcast, Charter, and I think there's one more.
Maybe Tom Warner. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it's like a few white men
Yep.
sitting around the table making all the decisions in regards to everything that you guys see, everything that your children see, the way that they build their confidence, what the measuring stick for beauty is, whatever they want you to think it is. If it's tall, white, slender, with full lips and walking the runway, then that's what it is. That's what every young girl is gonna want to look like.
Mhm.
If it's Kim Kardashian, that's what everybody's gonna want to look like. That's it. So I view media the same way, the same exact way. It's just agenda driven. Like whoever's in power, that's what's happening. And everything, the way that you get people is that you give them a whole bunch of shit that's based in truth. There's a little truth to it, but there's manipulation. There's more manipulation there than it is truth.
Right.
And that's kind of like how I see media.
What's your thoughts on the game dissing Eminem? We talked about it here last week. We had a little not debate, but we talked about it. And I said from watching the game over the last few years that I feel like he has to do a lot of gimmicky stuff, even though his album didn't do as well. I'm sure as you hoped it would. I feel like he has to do a lot of gimmicky stuff for his people to look at his music, even though his music is great. What's your thoughts on his diss track to Eminem? Do you think it's anything real there, or do you think it's a gimmick behind that?
Do I think there's anything real there?
Yeah, like is he really hating on him like that?
Oh, like real visceral?
Yeah, visceral.
No.
Like, I'm just gonna use him as a target to try to sell some records.
No, I don't think Game is that kind of guy. I don't think it's a problem.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's just what you said. He's just trying to create some steam.
Yeah.
He's trying to create some steam. He went on Drink Champs. They made him feel like that they felt like that he wasn't better than Eminem. And I guess he wanted to show people. I ain't mad at him. You know what I mean? Like I understand what he's trying to do. And there was a time in hip hop, like in order to be the best, you had to come for the best. I just don't think we in those days no more. And I don't think it translates the same coming from him at 40 as well as it would have if it was him like at 30. Because he has classic diss records under his belt.
Yeah.
So the idea in theory is fire.
Right.
In theory, it's supposed to be exciting. Game coming for Eminem, or the possibility of Game coming at M and M coming back at him. Like that's some exciting shit as a hip hop fan to consider.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think this was just one of those scenarios where I don't think he read the room that well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it didn't translate the way that it would have, but I definitely understand what he's trying to do. And to answer your question, no, I don't think it was nothing personal.
Agreed.
One thing we also appreciate about you is you do interviews. Do you have a podcast? Let me start with
I don't have a podcast, but you know what, man? I went and bought like a bunch of stuff. You can see I got the mic. You know what I mean? Like I got like all kinds of cameras and shit that I try out. I built sets and stuff in my studio. I haven't quite pulled the trigger on a podcast yet because the way that I felt about doing a podcast during the pandemic is a little bit different from how I feel about doing one now.
Okay.
You know, like I talk when I like to talk when I want to talk. Like when I feel something on my heart that I want to get off, but having to like show up every week or two and just talk, like I don't know about that. I'm still mulling that over in my mind. You know what I mean?
Well, all right. So I want to say this. What we appreciate about you is you can come on these platforms and have different variety of conversations. Not every conversation is the same. We're not hearing about your upbringing and everything, the same, blah, 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 blah. We're talking about different things and you have a perspective on those. And it's dope to hear from you, Royce the 5'9", the artist and the man, those perspectives. But we feel like sometimes when a lot of these artists, in particular hip hop artists, they jump into the podcast game because they assume it's popular or easy or whatever their case may be. It kind of waters them down to where we used to kind of have a mystique or to be able to have an interview with them and have that dynamic between the person who's interviewing and the person who's responding. It's a dynamic, a beautiful kind of relationship that people really appreciate it. Do you think that there's a problem with it? How do you feel about hip hop artists in particular going into the podcast game? Are we kind of reading too much into it? How do you feel about that?
anytime you have something that's thriving, and then people see it thriving, and then a bunch of people start rushing to that space, that's always going to be problematic because everybody's not going to be good at it. It's the same with crypto, NFTs, real estate, shit, anything that you can think of.
Right.
You know what I mean? Silicon Valley. You know what I mean? Like you go rush into that space. The guys that are like pros over there, who's really done their due diligence, who know what they're doing, they look at you like, yo, what are you doing over here? You just shooting at blindly at a target, and you in our way. But I mean, that's what happens when the masses rush to a space because guys like yourselves who are good at it, you guys make it look easy.
Appreciate
You know, so somebody like myself, I'm in a group with Joe Button. You know what I mean? Like I've always known that he was good at that.
Right.
Like even before he was doing it. So now that he's where he's at, yo, I got to look at that when I make my decision. If I decide I want to do a podcast, I got to look at that. Like, why would I want to compete with that? There's something I got to figure out a different way to get into that space, or just figure out different ways to build my brand and show you the things that I want, that I'm ready for you to see. It's also an evolution thing for me. You know, like I never thought that I would ever expose this many layers of myself when I first got into the business. I've always been a real private kind of a guy. It wasn't until that I started to see the benefits of being a little bit more transparent, and that's probably unique to me, just because when I started telling my story, it started helping so many other people, and I just started to get fulfillment from that. But you know, right now I'm in a space mentally where I feel like shit. I don't know if I need to be talking all the time, because now I'm experiencing like people taking what I say, flipping it. I'm experiencing people taking what I say the wrong way, just themselves comprehending it differently, processing it the wrong way based off of their own preconceived assumptions of me prior to listening to what I had to say. I experienced people only looking at like a little clip and just coming to a conclusion from there, and feeding like narratives that are hurtful to me. You know what I mean? So it's like when you start experiencing shit like that, it makes you just not want to talk at all.
Facts.
So now I look at like the Beyoncés and people on that level, the Eminems, and I'm like, okay, I see why they don't talk. You know what I mean? So I'm rambling, but that's kind of like some of the things that I think about right now. But I'm definitely thinking of trying to figure out some ways that I can be more involved just in the content space. But it's probably going to look more like me letting people in as opposed to me marketing some podcast to them or something like that. I don't know if I'm gonna do that per se, but there's definitely gonna be a heaven experience up here in my studio that I'm still trying to figure out a way to present it to people to where they feel like I'm letting them in to everything that goes on up here. Because you know, one of the first questions that you guys asked me was like, "Yo, I seen Cole was up there." People are interested in that, so I'm just trying to figure out a way that I can kind of like present that to them.
Right. I heard you talking, obviously you did some ghostwriting for Diddy. And I heard you talking about like Diddy, Birdman, and the Jay-Z's, and talking about how every time we hear something about them is mainly negative, but they're really legends in the game. Could you kind of expound more on that? And you know, working with Diddy and the negative perception that everybody has about Diddy, you kind of talk about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to what we was talking about with black people. It's black people doing it. You know what I mean? Like, so once I got to a certain age, I just decided, yo, I will not listen to any more Diddy slander, Jay-Z slander, Birdman slander, not even Suge Knight slander. I don't want to hear that shit. Right. You know what I mean? Because they've done too many great things. They've done too much for the culture. You know what I mean? Like if you spend a whole bunch of time hyper focused on things that they did that was wrong, first of all, we all make mistakes. All of us. You know what I mean? Like lately, like I've been getting like a whole bunch of backlash on the way that I support Joe. You know what I mean? Joe is my friend, bro. You know what I mean? Like Joe was a certain kind of person when we were doing Slaughterhouse, like early on, and he's a whole different person now. And it's almost like people don't want to give him the credit for being an evolved black man, bro.
Right.
Like, even if he's not doing a perfect job, man, dog, where he's at right now, I'm talking about as a person. Fuck the show.
Right.
Where he's at right now as a person, bro, it's night and day from where he was. Like, why are people who claim to follow this man acting like that they don't see that? And that's problematic because it's the same with everything.
Right.
Don't talk to me about the deal that Puff put Mace in 30 fucking years ago, bro. Like, I love Mace, and I want Mace to have his masters because I love Mace. You know what I mean? Like, I understand where he's coming from. I understand. I relate to his side. I understand why he feels how he feels. All of that. I understand Puff's side too. I understand that Puff was one of the first black moguls in hip hop, and at that time, you know, like, you probably had to do as the Romans did more so than now.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what it would have been like to be in his shoes back then. You can only fucking speculate that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what I do know, what's actual and factual, is that from the 90s all the way up until now, Puff is responsible for at least 35 to 40% of the greatest moments that you ever witnessed in your childhood and up to now. That is a fact. And we don't talk about that as much as we talk about, oh man, all the grimy contracts and all of that. Yo, these fucking record labels are still putting people in grimy contracts.
Yeah.
Nobody holds them to any standard. I don't hear anybody talking about any executive, Craig Kalmans or any of them. No shot at him. I'm just using him as an example, as an executive whose name I never hear. Why not?
Right.
Russell Simmons did this. Russell Simmons did that. Russell Simmons did that. I don't hear nothing about what Rick Rubin did. They started Def Jam together. Am I correct? Wasn't they in the same dorm room? You mean to tell me Russell was just doing all of the bullshit and Rick Rubin was sitting Indian style with no shoes on the whole time? Come on, bro. I'm tired of that shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying say nothing about Rick Rubin. I'm saying stop fucking talking about Russell. Right. Unless you associating him with greatness. I don't want to hear it. Period.
Well said on that. Talk about your brothers, man. Crooked Eye and Joel, man. Y'all ever gonna get back? I know it's some hot shit and stuff going on right now, business wise. But do you ever see you guys kind of coming together and piecing everything up on a personal level?
It's nothing to piece up. Okay. It's nothing to piece up. I'm at a point where I don't want it to turn into a different direction.
Right.
Joel just had some choice words for me recently. And listen, man, listen. I don't even want this to start stepping outside the realm of what our realities are, our truths are. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's never going to be a point in time where nobody is going to feel comfortable with trying that tough guy shit with me. Not in this lifetime, bro. You know what I mean? I don't have nothing bad to say about them, man. Like, I've never went on a public platform and intentionally set out to disrespect them. If I said something that was taken as disrespect, I apologize, because I'm telling you 1,000%, I'm not taking no disrespect. I'm not. And I'm not writing no motherfucking diss records neither. I'm a grown man. Mm-hmm. I'm a grown ass man. If I say I love them, I stand on that. I'm ready to die about anything I've ever said. I don't lie, bro. I love them. Like, I'm not. If we not gonna be friends, then let's move on. We don't have to make records about each other and all of that. I'm not doing none of that, bro. I'm not subscribing to that. I ain't agree to that. I ain't signed up for that. And I hate the fact that people think that that's a natural go-to for a black rapper. Right. Why is that the exit strategy for every fucking relationship in hip hop? To tear each other down and write records about each other. I'm over that. I'm over that. And I'm over the whole who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. I have my way that I see it. Joe has his way that he sees it. Joel and Crook have their way that they see it. I don't want to change their minds. I don't want to fight how they feel about it. And I certainly don't want to make them feel like that I feel like that I should be able to validate or invalidate their feelings. I am not in a position to do that. The only thing I can speak is my facts. And I know my main fact, the main elephant in this room that I sit in, is I love them, period. That don't come with a but. It don't come with none of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? All of this looking down on them and all of that. Listen, man, I don't want I don't want to partake in anything moving forward that has anything to do with them popping up on my timeline as my op. Media outlets presenting them to people as my op. Come on, man. Nah, bro. We had business with each other. Now we're not seeing eye to eye. To me, that's a normal thing.
Right.
You know, there's a few courtesies that I felt like that I deserved the respect to be extended to me. That wasn't extended to me. Crook kind of already admitted to doing that, and I think that's been overshadowed with just the reasons why. And people, you know, there's more conversations about the reasons why he did what he did. But the reasons why he did what he did is rather here nor there. The point to me is that he did what he did. You know what I mean? And so that's really all I'm really focused on is what he did, what they did. And I already forgive them for that. I felt like it was wrong, but I forgive them for that because I understand a lot of the reasons why. And I always knew that there was some frustration there. You know, it was just the way that it was handled. And I haven't handled everything the best. You know, like there's a few things in media about this situation that I haven't handled the best, that I kind of regret saying so much and saying, I promised my wife I would never talk about this again because I don't want it to be any messier than it already is. Like, you know, man, like we got to figure out a way to not make everything so messy when we decide we disagree or we moving on from each other. It don't have to be messy, bro. Like every relationship that you get in with a girl, you know, you're not going to always part on bad terms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got to start figuring out a way to exit these relationships if we're going to do so amicably, you know, or privately. Everything don't have to be public mess. Once you make something public,
right,
you opening up the door for somebody to tell their side. And then once somebody start telling their side, now you got a problem with their side. But you open the door, bro.
Mm.
And that's the point. The door never should have been open. It's not about who telling the truth or who not. The door shouldn't have been open, but it's open now, and that's water under the bridge. And I can't keep sitting and complaining about that being the problem. The solution is just to move on. And the proper way to do that is just to move on without all of the giving warnings and all of that. Fuck all that, man. You know what I mean? Like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of past that. I hate that I've gone days while dealing with this, thinking about it and being upset about it. You know what I mean? Like, in questioning things and trying to figure out, you know, like, because I like I said earlier, I always try to figure out the role that I played. Like, what can I hold myself accountable for? You know what I mean? And if you look at any of the interviews, you see very clearly me and Joe kind of holding ourselves accountable for things and even apologizing for certain things. You know what I mean? And that's really all that I can do. Right. You know what I mean? That's really all that I can do. But when it gets to a point where no matter what I say is being taken as disrespect or it's being taken as whatever, then at that point, man, that's when it's time to just digress. It's time to not even talk about it no more, man. Like, there's no other solution. You know, we're not going back in the booth together. That's certainly not happening. Right. So why there's nothing else to be mad about, bro. There's nothing to be frustrated about, nothing to make a record about. It's nothing to reconcile. It just is what it is, man. And it's unfortunate, but that's life. That's life. So what do? I take whatever I learned from that situation. And I say this with all the authenticity that I have in my mind, body, and soul, bro. I certainly appreciate every moment that I had with them brothers. I would never forget that. And I would never stop appreciating them for that. They stood next to me and afforded me a lot of luxuries in this shit. They helped me break down barriers that I couldn't break down on my own. You know what I mean? Like they showed me, they helped me learn the importance of reconciliation and the importance of collaborating. Because up to that point, before we did Slaughterhouse, I wasn't fucking with nobody. Mm. I didn't like rappers. I didn't want to be around rappers. I didn't want to do songs with rappers. And I certainly didn't like Joe. Me and Joe didn't like each other. It was Slaughterhouse that showed us the importance of reconciliation and the importance of collaborating. And we got out there early and we did it, and we broke down a lot of barriers together, and we were able to fucking stop the world in our own little world. We were able to stop the world together. And I'm always gonna love and appreciate them for that. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna let none of the shit that come out of their mouths after that affect or tarnished the way that I look at all of the good things. And I'm to a point now. I'm just gonna look at them, and I'm just gonna look at them for the good things, and I'm gonna stop even feeding into the bad shit that's being said, because a lot of that shit is just coming from frustration. You know, people going through shit. The pandemic. Listen, man, I've dealt with nine losses, 9 deaths, 9 funerals, 9 over the pandemic.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had to endure a lot, man. I ain't handled everything the best. So why should I expect them to handle shit perfectly? They haven't handled my name perfectly, but I haven't handled their names perfectly either. So instead of expecting perfection from each other, let's just quit talking about each other and let's just move on. That's kind of like where I'm at with it.
Right.
Definitely, man. We definitely appreciate you, man. We reached the hour on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Before we get out of here, though, man, tell us what you got going on. Next, if you may.
Right now I'm focusing on music, a lot of music. I've been doing a lot of music, and I'm focusing on shooting a lot of content, and I'm doing a lot of brainstorming and a lot of planning. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it for me. So as I have things come down the pipeline, you guys are certainly gonna know about it.
Thank you.
Anything that I roll out in the future, I'm definitely gonna make sure that what's up, my brother? You good? Oh, you missed it. Oh shit. You on Black People Time. Yeah, my bad, fellas. So I'm gonna definitely make sure that anything that I roll out, I'm gonna stop by and see you guys, make sure we have a conversation about it. You know what I mean? Make sure I keep you in the loop. Definitely appreciate you guys for having me.
Nah, man, the honor is all ours, man. We appreciate you. And yeah, man, let's do this again and again and again, man. We definitely appreciate your perspective, man. You're welcome on anytime, brother. Royce the 5'9" on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Salute, family.
Love and respect to you, good brothers.